what happened here. Let's talk about the part-timers and the way that I think the Teamsters tended, they went and made this almost a two-tier thing. And it's funny how they were trying to eliminate the two-tier system. But World Socialist website, you can always count on WSWS to go hard on behalf of the workers and against corporate. So Tom Hall, and he's from the Socialist Equality Party over at WSWS out of California. Teamsters announced sellout deal at UPS to block the strike by 340,000 workers. This is their perspective, was this is a sellout and this was intended to block the strike. I mean, based on Sean's language for the prior couple of weeks, I disagree. And I really want to read this article because I like Tom Hall. I disagree with a lot of things in World Socialist website. I think especially their COVID coverage was alarmingly alarmist, if that even is a word. But it was over the top alarmist. But you know, their coverage of worker strikes to me is up there, and they cover more of them than just about anyone. What's your take on WSWS, Reef?
Well, you said they're trot, so that I theory broing, trot theory. You even theory, bro?
Do you even theory, bro?
You know.
So their article, Tuesday's announcement of a TA between the Teamsters Union and UPS opens a new stage in the struggle of 340,000 UPS workers. For months, Teamsters bureaucracy under General President Sean O'Brien pledged thousands of times to call a national strike if a new deal wasn't in place by August 1st. But the announcement of a TA 1 week before the deadline and only hours before the talks had restarted, after talks had restarted following a 3-week pause, has exposed this as a massive bait and switch campaign. Bait and switch campaign.
Bait and switch?
Bait and switch.
Bait and switch?
Bait and switch. Yes. Yes, it's a bait and switch campaign. So in general, how loudly the union apparatus declares an agreement historic, as well as the number of pro-corporate Democrats congratulating workers on the deal, which yesterday included Nancy Pelosi.
Who are these people?
Nancy.
Right? And AOC and others who voted last year to ban the rail strike. That's directly related to the scale
Who
of the
are
sellout.
these people?
Yeah, thank you. Moreover, what is left out of the highlights is always revealing as what is included. The details that have emerged in any case make clear that the agreement is historic only as a naked sellout. So here's what we get. Starting wages for part-timers, as we know, who make up 2/3 of the workforce, will increase from $15.50 per hour to $21, rising to $23 over the 5 years of the contract. But $15.50 so low that UPS has already been compelled to raise wages around the country to attract enough workers, and many already make more than $21 per hour. With a working day that lasts only 3 to 4 hours for most, this will keep the vast majority of the workforce mired in poverty.
So they got literally nothing. They already got this.
If they were making more than $21 an hour, they got nothing. Part-timers at the company's massive and modern World Port Freight Hub in Louisville, Kentucky report having to live 3 to an apartment and even go without eating to try to make ends meet. That's nice. Thanks, UPS. What can Brown do for you?
Give you the Browns?
Well, not if you're not eating. But significantly, the highlights say nothing about pensions or healthcare, and you won't need your poop knife either. That's
poop knife.
Yes, an email bulletin sent by the Teamsters to UPS workers alleged unspecified major increases to the IBT UPS pension plan, which covers workers in 22 states. But it said nothing about pensions for workers in the country's other 28 states. Unconfirmed reports to WSWS suggested at least some other regions may not have received any increase in pension payments at all and only minimal increases to health care. That's not so great, right? The contract is going to create 7,500 new full-time positions, which they were screaming about, but that's next to nothing with a company of nearly 200,000 part-timers, some of whom have waited decades to move up to full-time status.
Yeah.
Existing and full and part-time workers will receive a $7.50 per hour wage increase over the life of the 5-year contract.
50 cent.
$7.50 over 5 years. For drivers whose wages have already been eaten up by inflation, this amounts to a pathetic 15% increase by 2028, amounting to a substantial further cut in real wages.
Yep.
An agreement to include air conditioning in all new vehicles will leave drivers without AC into the 2040s, given that UPS keeps trucks in operation for 25 years or more.
25 years or more. Yep. Yep.
Are they going to retrofit everything now? Now we saw that article by Luis Felice Leon that says that they were going to fit the entire 94,000 vehicle fleet. That's not what I see here. New vehicles, not all vehicles.
Yep.
The contract also continues the use of Uber-style personal vehicle drivers during peak seasons, exploiting the economic desperation of part-timers by giving them 8 hours of work a day. And this is the thin end of the wedge of suppressing wages for full-time drivers or getting rid of them entirely. Why do they have to use their own personal vehicles to get a full-time day of work in? Why? Because they don't want...
Because the company doesn't want to pay overhead cost for their own vehicles. Why the fuck would they do that? When they can make you pay it and, work you to death and get all the wealth that you accrue for them, But, whatever.
From now on...
Sure, that's fine.
So from now on, the fight by UPS workers will take the form of an open conflict against the Teamsters apparatus. Workers cannot afford to be extras in a bureaucratically controlled, made-for-TV contract campaign. They must organize themselves to defeat the sellout contract and wrest control out of the hands of the union apparatus. This means the building of the UPS Workers Rank-and-File Committee, founded earlier this month, as the organizing center of the opposition on the shop floor. And then you also have TDU, and they're going to talk a little bit about TDU, but the fight of UPS must be based on drawing the lessons of the experience through which workers have passed. Bureaucracy in the Teamsters and in the other unions have spent decades enforcing massive sellouts while driving strike activity to near zero. It's highly revealing that the Teamsters' most prominent boast about the deal is that it has succeeded in raising UPS workers' nominal wages to slightly above the $19 per hour starting rate at non-union Amazon. This is the result of decades of betrayals by the union bureaucracy, particularly since the mid-70s when part-timers were first introduced. Right, so they have a whole video about donation because they're always soliciting donations as well. He says, now driven by intolerable conditions, the biggest upsurge of the working class in decades is underway. This has seriously challenged the ability of the bureaucracy, which is hated and distrusted by workers, to play its appointed role of ramming through sellouts. This is shown, for example, by the simultaneous strikes by TV and film writers and actors, the first in more than 60 years, right? Well, so they were calling this strike-ready campaign of UPS was bogus. It was designed from the start as a means of getting out in front of rank-and-file anger, while the bureaucrats worked behind the scenes to engineer yet another betrayal. They were advised in this role, this is where it gets ugly, by the Teamsters for a Democratic Union, Labor Notes, that's Luis, the Democratic Socialists of America, and other pseudo-left groups, all of which have spent decades promoting the fiction of self-reform through the bureaucracy, through cosmetic changes at the top.
Reformist.
Somebody's been saying that all week. This whole thing sounds reformist. Okay?
Yep.
All of these groups have spent years recasting O'Brien, who is, in Tom's mind, a notorious thug and enforcer for the last Teamsters president, James P. Hoffa, who played a leading role in the 2013 UPS sellout contract as a militant union leader. This paved the way for O'Brien's election as general president in 2021, albeit amid the lowest turnout in the history of the direct union elections, which was a mark then beaten last year by the 9% turnout in the UAW election. In exchange, the TDU, DSA, and others have received lucrative posts in the top echelons of the apparatus as PR managers. If that's the case, and Labor Notes and American Prospect and all these guys are actually getting favors, access, and jobs to be PR managers without disclosing that, that's really bad and really dirty.
Yep.
That's the accusation that I'm seeing here. That the TDU is now aligned with the Teamsters as their PR arm or part of it. In the final weeks before the TA was announced, the TDU even quietly shelved its demand for a $25 starting pay for part-timers and privately informed its supporters that proposal was dead. Wow. That's the first I've heard that. This did not prevent Sean Orr, who's a member of DSA and TDU steering committee, from declaring the deal announced by O'Brien a great victory that was the product of the rank and file changing the leadership of our union 2 years ago.
Yep.
What's taking place at UPS is not just a contract fight, it's part of a larger political struggle. Behind O'Brien and UPS stand the Biden administration and both big business parties. Remember last week, just last week, when we said that he was warning Biden, don't intervene, please don't intervene. Can you pretty please beg not to intervene? And then he invited all the Democrats to stand on stage with him. And we were like, this doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What's taking place behind O'Brien and UPS stand the Biden administration and both big business parties. I'll read that again. The real author of the TA is not to be found in the bargaining room in D.C., but a short distance away in the White House. By drawing together with the union bureaucracy, Biden hopes to strangle the growing strike movement and impose cuts in real wages in order to both prop up Wall Street and to prepare the home front for World War III against Russia and China.
Yep,
except for one thing. It's not Biden, and we know this. It's the Biden administration.
Uh-huh.
It's
part of it.
It's the apparatus.
He's complicit.
It's the
and
apparatus that with Derpy Joe, Sleepy Joe, Crusty Joe, Creepy Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Bush didn't do 9/11.
Pretty much. Yes, it happened on his watch.
Even though he did.
And it happened because of him, but he didn't do it because they played on the fact that he was a moron. So
and Biden, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
This strategy has played out again and again, including last month on the docks, last year on the railroads, and in the oil refineries at freight companies such as Yellow, where Teamsters canceled the strike at the last minute over the weekend. Biden, the strike breaker in chief, met regularly with O'Brien in the lead up to the UPS sellout deal, as well as last year when he was preparing to ban a strike by railroad workers. Almost identical methods are being used to try to block a strike at the big three automakers. The promotion of longtime bureaucrat Sean Fain as a reform president. The elevation of the pseudo-left Unite All Workers for Democracy faction into top posts. And close collaboration between Fain and the White House, screened behind radical-sounding public statements by the union and aimed at confusing the workers.
And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Yeah. What are the conclusions workers must draw? So first, as long as things remain in the hands of the union apparatus, regardless of who is leading it or what it publicly claims, the only possible outcome is a sellout. But if workers organize themselves, develop alternative structures which they control, and struggle to transfer power from the apparatus to the rank and file, they will then create the means through which they can fight the union management government conspiracy against them. I love how he gets like 89% of the way there. What he doesn't say, and what Colin is screaming at his screen right now, is workers need to own the fucking means of production. And that's where this has to go from there. Fuck unions. Unions are the concession. Unions are the compromise. Unions are not the end-all, be-all.
Thing sucks.
Exactly. Exactly. I know, Colin. I love you, bro. I love you.
Yeah. Co-ops.
Co-ops.
We'll say it again.
Worker-owned co-ops.
Not the co-op that you're being co-opted, but as in a cooperative.
Correct.
You know? I know that's confusing for some of these.
Yep.
So,
well, because we're talking about Chris Smalls, co-ops and co-ops is very, very hard to tell the difference between. So
yeah.
The UPS Workers Rank and File Committee, part of the International Workers Alliance of Rank and File Committees, must be developed as the organizational spearhead for a movement to reject the sellout agreement and fight for the transfer of power from the apparatus to the rank and file. As long as you retain government protection, I agree with you. But if you are going to strip workers of long, hard, and fought for government protections of their own rights, I'm not down. And rank and file committees don't do that. Co-ops do. Co-ops do.
Yep.
UPS,
and you can also union within a co-op. That's possible.
UPS workers have the most powerful allies on Earth, the international working class. Workers everywhere are closely following the situation at UPS and want to unite with UPS workers because they know this is a critical battle whose outcome will affect the class struggle as a whole. By uniting with workers in other companies and industries where they're facing the same betrayals, UPS workers will find the strength they need to defeat this tentative agreement. Not gonna happen. Nice thought.
Nope.
Church of Carlin.
Yep.
But above all, the struggle at UPS raises fundamental questions of class rule. Workers are not just fighting against a greedy company, but an entire social system, capitalism, which can only continue to exist through intensified exploitation and through world war. In response, workers must take up the fight for socialism, that is, the reorganization of society to abolish the profit motive and run the world on the basis of human need, not private profit. This was not such a crappy article, I have to say, for World Socialist website. Tom Hall did a pretty good job there.